You're listening to The Greeks Gridiron. Now here's your host, Ethan Haristadoulou.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristadoulou, and today we wrap up ranking offenses by each division. We've gone one by one. We started with defenses. We've worked our way through the offenses now, and we wrap it up with the NFC North, a division that I personally think has no clear-cut favorite. You definitely could argue that maybe a team or two has a little bit of a lead over the other two, but I will say that I think this is one of those divisions that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, not only offensively, but defensively as well. That being said, I invite you all, comment down below. Let me hear your thoughts, your opinions. Where do these teams rank? What are your thoughts on mine? But we'll start with the number 4 team and work our way up. And at the very bottom, my oh my, have the mighty fallen. At number 4, the Minnesota Vikings here. Now, I should preface this by saying that up until this season, I have been very high on the Vikings offense. I even had them ranked as the best offense going into last season, and I caught a lot of flack for it. Obviously ended up being wrong as the Lions kind of ran away with things in the division last year, but I will say this. There is a lot of potential with this offense. I still think Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips have a great offensive scheme. I think that you still have a lot of talented players here, although there are some issues kind of going on with the Vikings right now, and I think that this season will be kind of like an ultimate test for both Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips and how they plan on running this offense here. J.J. McCarthy, first-round rookie selection, is out for the season due to a knee injury. It's going to be the Sam Darnold show. And I really think it boils down to just exactly what we get out of Sam Darnold this season. That's kind of where I think the Vikings offense stands. If it's not great, I'm not going to hold my breath on some awesome performance here. I'm really disappointed that we're not seeing J.J. McCarthy this season, and I really hope that he comes back next year and he's able to light it up for the Vikings, because I feel for you Vikings fans. That was a devastating blow to this team here. Now, I will say, though, talent is there. Plenty of talent. You have guys, of course, like Justin Jefferson. You have guys, of course, like Jordan Addison. However, working through an sprained ankle right now. Sounds like he's going to be potentially good to go for week 1 against the Giants here, but it does seem like it is a little bit up in the air. It seems like a lot of people assume he's going to be back practicing, but they don't necessarily know if he'll be ready to go for that matchup there. You also have a guy like tight end TJ Hawkinson, another talented tight end, working his way back from an ACL and meniscus tear from like the middle-ish or so of last season here. Sounds like he's a candidate to return somewhere around the bye week or so. So it looks like Johnny Munt and Josh Oliver are poised to make a run at that starting tight end role, as free agent signing Robert Tonyan is also dealing with an injury right now as well. Thankfully, though, you did make a good offseason acquisition, in my opinion, running back Aaron Jones, so this does kind of help some of the issues you're dealing with right now in terms of skill position players dealing with injuries right now. Running catch kind of guy. He can do everything you need for him out of the backfield. Missed 6 games last season, but I mean, beyond that, you look back from his time from 2019 to 2022, we're talking nearly 50 touchdowns, nearly 6,000 total yards, 5.5 yards per touch. I think Aaron Jones will be a great security blanket for whoever is quarterback during the duration of this 2024 season. Due to the defense needing so much help, though, this past offseason, not a ton really went into the offense as far as draft selections are concerned. Yes, J.J. McCarthy being the big selection there, but on top of that, you just have a couple of depth picks later in the draft here in round 6 and 7 with some offensive linemen here. And it really is going to come down to Sam Darnold. And I'm sorry, Vikings fans, but I'm kind of out on the Sam Darnold train. It was a little bit of a fun story to watch. Was it last season or the season before? I can't even remember how long ago. It feels like ages ago, where Sam Darnold was on the Panthers. He had them 3-0, and then everything collapsed from there. I think that's been a couple of seasons now, because he was in San Fran last year. So I don't really know. I'm hoping that best case scenario, Kevin O'Connell and Wes Phillips have the scheme that can take the tool set that everyone loved about Sam Darnold coming out of college and really bring it to life here in the NFL. But in my opinion, there's going to need to be a lot of smoke and mirrors to get this offense humming early, especially dealing with some of the injuries that you have. Like if it takes Jordan Addison a few weeks, even if he starts playing hypothetically week 1, probably going to take him till like week 2, 3, or 4 to really get himself rolling and feel like he's at 100%. And then again, TJ Hawkinson, he's not going to be back till probably middle of the season, somewhere along those lines. So your offense is probably not going to really hit its full potential and stride until the midpoint point of the season. You're going to need some really good luck and some excellent scheming by O'Connell and Phillips if you want this offense to come out of the gates and surprise everybody early here. I don't have super high hopes for Minnesota this year. It kind of feels like it's almost a bit of a lost cause. I'm looking forward to seeing if they prove me wrong or not, but I'm unfortunately just not super high on Minnesota right now. Moving into the number 3 spot here, and I know I'm going to get so much about this here, but I feel pretty firm in the way I have things ranked out for this division this year. At the number 3 spot, I'm going with Chicago. I know there are probably some Bears fans out there that are going to come at me. I'm ready for it. That's fine. I am excited to see what Chicago does this season. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people here, but you do have some very stiff competition in the NFC North, and I'm at the stage right now where, on paper, Chicago looks extremely exciting, but I need you to prove it on the football field. And I know we've been seeing some fun stuff in the preseason so far, but I got to see some actual regular season action before I can truly go all in with what Chicago has brewing. You have Shane Waldron coming in from Seattle. He was a big part of the resurgence with Geno Smith over there in his career alongside Pete Carroll, and now he's tasked with obviously helping Caleb Williams become a pro in the NFL, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do there. But on top of all that, the additions are what has everybody really excited this year. You trade for Los Angeles Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen, who's going to man the slot. It seems like incredible route runner, incredible hands just last season. And people seem to be forgetting this because he had a little bit of like not an injury-riddled season, but he dealt with some injuries the last couple of years here. 100-plus receptions, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. I mean, not really bad. I know he's an aging wide receiver, but you're going to have him inside the slot now more than anything else, so he can do some damage here. You have, of course, in round number 1 to go alongside your quarterback selection, wide receiver Rome Odunze, 92 receptions, 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns, averaging about 18 yards per reception last season, showed steady growth during his time in Washington and was a big part of why they were able to make that run to the national championship this past season. DeAndre Swift, exciting addition, another person coming off of a bit of an injury history here, but coming off his best and healthiest season of his career thus far. Staying healthy will be key for him, because if he's able to stay healthy, last year he totaled up 1,200 yards, 6 total touchdowns, and 4.7 yards per touch. I think that's a game-breaking back to have in the backfield for you. You have a really fun tight end combo with Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett. I do have a concern about the offensive line. They were an injury-riddled group last year, as you had Nate Davis, Tevin Jenkins, and Braxton Jones all missing significant time, slated to start this year as well. And of course, you had departures in Cody Whitehair and Lucas Patrick moving on. So there's a little bit of a reshuffling and just kind of like a reset going on with the O-line here. And considering that it was a group that allowed and was tied for 7th in sacks last season, they definitely have some work to improve upon, and they got to stay healthy for things to go. But the biggest thing really for me about this team is just health, because again, so much talent, so much excitement. I think what Shane Waldron did was not one of those like strokes of luck with what he did in Geno Smith and with Pete Carroll the last few seasons in Seattle. I think if this O-line stays healthy, they can protect Caleb Williams. He can extend plays with his legs. We've seen what he can do throughout his college days, and he's done some exciting stuff in the preseason as well. If Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, they're all staying healthy, this offense's potential really is, the sky is the limit, it feels like. But we got to see how healthy this team remains through the duration of the season. I think health is a concern. Obviously, you can't sit here and say that Chicago won't be good because you can't trust these guys being healthy or not. I think that if they're healthy, sky's the limit. If they're not, there's definitely some concerns to be had. And of course, Caleb Williams, as exciting as he is, don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I want him to be successful for Chicago's sake. You guys deserve a quarterback that can make you proud. However, he is a rookie. And while things have looked fun so far, what are those rookie mistakes going to look like? That is definitely something you have to think about. And hopefully they're not nearly as bad as some other rookie mistakes that we've seen from other quarterbacks in years past. But that is something you have to keep in the back of your mind. What are those mistakes going to look like? How is he going to handle that adversity? So I'll go with them at number 3, but I definitely think the potential for them to be awesome is there. Coming in at the number 2 spot, and again, I'm bracing myself for a lot of flack from fans of every team in this division here, because it seems like I get that every season. I'm here for it. I love the conversation. At number 2, heavy consideration, I'm going with the Green Bay Packers here. Now, The patience of Matt LaFleur and Adam Stenavich paid off last season. Jordan Love proved himself, had an excellent first starting season. He got paid, and rightfully so, in my opinion. The market is the market for the quarterbacks. Whether you like it or not, that is the fact of the reality that we live in the NFL these days. And Green Bay has kind of at this point created a bit of a roadmap into developing quarterbacks into legit starting guys for the league now at this point here. It's pretty impressive what they have done. And if Jordan Love goes on to have a 10-plus year career in Green Bay, people need to start looking at what they're doing here. And Tom Brady did an interview not too long ago just talking about how important it is he thinks that rookie quarterbacks get the opportunity to sit and learn before they get going. Obviously, Brady didn't necessarily start early in his career. He had that whole first season basically to sit back and learn. And I do agree with him to some extent. So I'm excited to see where things go here. Green Bay was the youngest team in the NFL last season, and they are still one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. And I think we're going to have a really big test of just how much this team grew this past offseason. And I'm excited to see how high the ceiling goes for this Packers team. You had some really great additions. Running back Josh Jacobs headlining the offseason additions here for the offense, with Aaron Jones moving on to Minnesota. I think Josh Jacobs is in a really good position right now because Jordan Love showed everyone 32 touchdown passes last year with a really young group of skilled wide receivers that are still learning themselves. They can move the football through the air. That is going to open things up for Josh Jacobs, and I think we're going to get stuff more akin to like his 2022 season out of him, and less so than what we got from him last season. I'm really expecting things to open up for him because he's a talented running back nonetheless. You also had a third-round selection in Marshawn Lloyd to add some depth to that running back room as well. A guy who had about 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 8.2 yards per touch last season. You, of course, beefed up the O-line. Jordan Morgan's going to bolster the interior there, has allowed only 2 sacks and almost 800 pass blocking snaps in 2023, so protection for Jordan Love there. And then, of course, that left tackle spot, all eyes on Rashid Walker as he beat out Josh Neiman, I believe is how his name is pronounced. He beat him out for the left tackle spot, sent him packing out of Green Bay here. Obviously, with Bakhtiari being released, a lot of eyes will be on how that position looks not just from this season, but into the future here, because you're going from a guy in Bakhtiari who is, a pro's pro at the left tackle position here, and we're now having a 7th round selection from a couple of seasons ago take over the role. I'm really interested in seeing how the blind side looks for Love. And I'm kind of curious about the tight end situation as well here. You have 2 guys who by no means really blew anyone away. I think Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft were fairly even last year, to say the least, both splitting starts and just getting opportunities. They roughly the same yardage. It's kind of crazy when you look at their numbers, just how even they were. Luke Musgrave seems to be a little bit ahead here. He's listed first on the depth chart per hour, lads. So it's looking like him at 1, Tucker Kraft at 2, but I'm curious to see which one of those 2 guys really separates themselves and takes over. But this Packers offense is young, it's exciting, and for them to have done what they did last year, and I mean, they challenged the Lions, they beat them on Thanksgiving, and everyone had the Lions going through for that victory there. This is a group that's young, that's talented, they're still learning, they're still growing, and if they have some serious growth coming out of this offseason, this is a group to watch here. I'm really excited, and especially with the conversation around Jordan Love, 1-year wonder, why is he getting paid? I'm really looking forward to seeing what this team turns into here, and part of me is almost rooting for Jordan Love solely because I want the Packers to be rewarded for giving their young quarterback time to learn and grow before throwing him to the wolves like we've seen so many NFL teams do to so many quarterbacks that ultimately their careers flop out. I just think that young quarterbacks sometimes need time. Most of them do. Very rarely do any quarterbacks just step in and are they ready to go. We'll probably get an example of a guy stepping in, a guy or 2 this season who's ready to go out of the gates, but most guys coming from these collegiate systems, it's nothing like what they're dealing with in the NFL here. And for the most part, quarterback being as tough of a position as it is, I'm in the group that thinks guys typically need to sit and cook. There are the exceptions, don't get me wrong. You have the Peyton Mannings of the world. There's a good potential that someone like Caleb Williams or maybe even Bo Nix this year shows everyone they didn't really need the time. There are other guys. Tom Brady took a season before he really got himself going, and it even took him a little bit beyond that to really establish himself as a legit top guy. So there are people that need to sit, they need to learn, and I want to see Green Bay rewarded for that. But I'm looking forward to this offense here. I think they're going to be really fun. And then, of course, at the number 1 spot, the Detroit Lions, last but certainly not least here. I think this season is going to be the culmination of what Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson's initial vision for this offense was. Jared Goff has been an absolute steal for them here. Like, talk about a trade that everyone thought they lost working out in the best way possible here. He has been nails for Detroit since coming into the city here. You have a really young, talented group of guys around Jared Goff as well. And realistically, when I look at this team here, the only real questions I have are the young bucks that they have that are getting set and ready to pick up even bigger roles this season, ready to go? And can this offense elevate beyond what they did last year? Because if that's the case, good luck keeping up with the Detroit Lions here. If their defense improves on top of that with the amount that they put into the defense this offseason, this could be a problematic group for defenses to deal with. Now, as far as the additions go, the changes that we're looking at here, right guard Kevin Zeitler coming in from Baltimore. He's going to be replacing Jonah Jackson, who departed this offseason. Pretty much as consistent as they come throughout the duration of his career, has almost never really missed any time. I think this was like the perfect, vet piece. Didn't cost you a ton of money. I think he's getting paid like $6 million for the season. You drop him right into that O-line, and you're not really missing Jonah Jackson. Sorry, Jonah, but Kevin Zeitler is a pro's pro. He's been doing it for a hell of a long time, and he's been consistent always. On top of that, some of the younger guys we're looking at here that are going to get increased roles here. Jameson Williams is going to be his biggest season yet, in my opinion, here, and it's going to be kind of the prove-it season for him as well. He averaged nearly 15 yards per reception last season in the 12 games he played out of the 10 starts he had. He was suspended at the start of last season, obviously, for the gambling stuff. This will be his first legitimate start to a season without the injury from his first year, the suspension from last year. So he's coming out ready to go, working with the team, and from day one, he'll be there. And I think we're going to see an explosion from him. Jameson Williams is one of those guys that when he was coming out of college, he was one of the top wide receivers coming in. And if it wasn't for that injury, he was probably going to be one of the top picks in the draft that year. So he comes in. I think his role, especially because you have Amon-Ra St. Brown eating up all the looks. Everyone's focused on him over there. This is the season for Jameson Williams to really arrive and explode and be the Robin to Amon-Ra's Batman, so to speak. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, who looks like he's getting set up to be the starting back. Obviously, last year, a lot of conversation around him not being the starter the whole entire season. Looks like he's taken over that role here. And now you have yourself an extremely competent 1-2 punch with him and David Montgomery. This is one of the more exciting duos, I think, at running back. There is the hamstring injury that he's dealing with right now. We'll keep an eye on that. Doesn't sound like it's too serious. I hope that Detroit errs on the side of just letting him get to 100% before trotting him out there. A hamstring injury is one of those things that it can plague you for an entire season. So give yourself the time to rest and recover, and I hope Detroit has the awareness to do that as well. Let him come back when he's actually ready. Don't try to force him back in just for the sake of trying to have that explosive 1-2 combo. Like David Montgomery clearly showed last year, he could very well handle the starting role as the running back for them. And then, of course, I'm looking at Sam Laporta, who blew me away last season. 86 catches, nearly 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 10 yards per reception. My big question for him is just, can he improve on that? Can he do even better? Can he cross the 1,000-yard mark? Does he maybe reach the 100 reception mark? Do we get more than 10 touchdowns? How many yards per reception is he going this season here? There is so much going on with this offense in terms of just talent, the excitement, and the best thing that could have happened for Detroit this offseason happened, and that was keeping Ben Johnson as the offensive coordinator for another season. He goes, and I think we're having a completely different conversation about Detroit and what they potentially might look like this year. But the fact that he decided, no, I'm going to stick this out. We were this close last year, and he has kind of taken ownership of this offense, and he wants to help bring them to the promised land and a Super Bowl victory for Detroit. This is an offense that was on fire last year. So to keep him around, to basically have your entire core group of guys, same group now, just 1 year older, 1 year wiser, another year together as a group. I think continuity was key for this team here. And the fact that they basically got to keep it everywhere is a huge piece for the success of the 2024 season in Detroit. This offense scored only under 20 points 3 times last season. 3 times. Could you imagine if things improve? We're talking less than once, maybe twice this season. 20 points in only 3 games, less than 20. That's an unbelievable number. That's not something you really get in the NFL yearly. I don't really anticipate this offense slowing down, and they had pretty much everything go their way this offseason as far as retaining who they needed to retain. Detroit, in my opinion, probably going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. and I'm here for it. So Lions fans, sit back. I think you have a very fun season coming your way. But those are my rankings, my thoughts on the NFC North, and that is it for divisional power rankings. Remember, we've done all the offenses, we've done all the defenses, and now we get set for the regular season. We've got power rankings coming up very soon. We're doing weekly game predictions as well, picking the winners every single week. Plenty to come your way. Make sure you're subscribed and you don't miss out. But that is it for me. As always, if you made it to the end, I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you all next time. Have a good one.